What else can be said about this movie that hasn't already been said a million times before? At this point, I'm desperately looking forward to July 11th. Not because I'm looking forward to watching this movie, but I'm looking forward to a moment in time when this movie no longer dominates the movie news cycle. In all honesty, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to move on to the next movie that everyone can be hypersensitive about. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Let's go, baby! Superman trailer in full effect. Did he just catch a building? That's my Superman. We are so back. I think Lex Luthor is going to be a peak villain in this movie. Not gonna lie, it's giving Heath Ledger Joker vibes. Lex is about to pull up on everybody who Superman loves. Superman fighting a kaiju? How can you not be hyped for this? Krypto and Superman teaming up to knock somebody's teeth out. Let James Gunn cook. I don't know why people have an issue with Guy Gardner. He's supposed to be goofy. Wait, is Lois driving a spaceship? Get it, Queen? Ha! He's doing important stuff. Classic James Gunn. Hope and optimism. Everything Superman should be. July 11th, we will be seated. I know this is going to be a difficult concept for some of you to wrap your head around, but the truth is that I do not hate this movie. I do not want to hate this movie. From the beginning, I've always said that I'm simply waiting for something about James Gunn's Superman to impress me. And up until this point, it hasn't. And considering we are this close to release, and we've had a plethora of rumors, scoops, and reveals in regards to this movie already, it's safe to say that my general feeling towards this film, heading into July, hasn't changed in the slightest.
Not impressed.
Now, I understand that there are people who are very excited for this movie, and you are more than entitled to that opinion if you are one of those people. But just as you are entitled to your opinion, I am entitled to mine. And based on what I've seen so far, this looks more and more like just another modern comic book movie, which has me feeling very indifferent towards it. My first major problem as it pertains to this trailer comes in the form of Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor. Now, I haven't spoken much on that casting decision up until this point, and that's mainly because I was reserving judgment until I saw more. I like Nicholas Holt as an actor, and on paper, he would seem like someone who would be a perfect fit for a character like Lex Luthor. He is someone who could very easily pull off both the unhinged side and professional side of Superman's greatest adversary, which makes his extended inclusion in this trailer leaving me feeling underwhelmed all the more confusing.
I don't get it.
He has the talent, yet his screen presence, his line delivery, came off very flat and underwhelming to me, which leads me to believe that there may be a problem with the material that he is given to work off from. His voice sounded off, his dialogue sounded cheesy to me, and his presence in the trailer, in my opinion, left a lot to be desired. I've been waiting for a Lex Luthor in live action that is on the same level of the Lex Luthor we got in the animated series. To me, oddly enough, I think Smallville came the closest to giving us just that. And no one has really tapped into the potential of this character in a satisfying way since then. Which brings me to David Corenswet as Superman, who again, I'm not 100% sold on. I think, again, in a lot of ways, he looks the part outside of his physique. But when I see him and hear him on screen as Superman, he just doesn't feel like the Man of Steel to me.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Again, the screen presence isn't there that's required to make this character feel like the big deal that he should be. I've said this before and I'll say it again here. I think David makes a much better Clark than he does a Superman. To me, whoever plays him needs to be able to tap into both sides of that character, and up until this point, I'm not convinced that David is going to be able to do that. And again, just like with Lex, it could be that the material itself is failing him. When he speaks, I do not hear Superman, I hear David. When he says things like, "good luck with that," or "I'm not messing around, I'm doing important stuff," in this weak, scrawny sounding voice, it just doesn't feel like Superman to me.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you?
And then we have Lois Lane, who I think is the best casting decision of our three main characters. But there's a scene in this trailer that I hope the film has a great explanation for. I'm talking about the scene where it appears she is driving a spaceship. Yes, Queen! I don't know how this movie is going to explain how she comes to be in that cockpit, or how she even knows how to fly a spaceship, but it feels like a very random thing for Lois Lane to be doing in a Superman movie. Now, I'm not saying that she can only be the damsel in distress. Obviously, her character is capable of so much more than that. But a scene like that screams Gunn forcing the issue and trying to get her to be more involved, even if it makes no sense. Again, we don't have context for that scene, but it is something that stood out to me. Now, there's been a lot of talk already about including Krypto in this movie. Would I have done it? No. Does it feel gimmicky? Absolutely. But here's the thing, with Krypto, I will give them credit for at least trying to do something new. Trying to adapt something from Superman lore that hasn't really been done in live action yet. Even if that something new has the potential to camp the movie out to the point that some people check right out of it.
No, don't like that.
A lot has also been said about the visuals, specifically the VFX shots, and to me some shots look better than others, but there has been more than a few occasions where the VFX shots feel a bit off to me, a bit wonky, and dare I say a bit the Flash movie-esque. Now, I will admit that things like this look a lot different when you're watching them in the theater compared to when you watch them on your phone or when you're at home. Case in point, I just watched a scene from Infinity War the other day where Spider-Man and Tony Stark were having a conversation. And the scene looked awful visually on my TV screen. It was basically two floating heads on a video game background. So I will admit that there could be a little bit of that going on with Superman. They supposedly put a lot of time and money into these VFX shots. But up until this point, I'm failing to see exactly where that time and money was actually used.
I'd buy that for $1.
I've seen people already compare the look and feel of this movie to Silver Age comics, and I'm not going to dispute that. I just don't know how a more campy and cheesy tone of classic comics is going to resonate with modern audiences. To me, you could be hopeful, you can be optimistic without being campy. And this is something that people who dispute my criticisms don't seem to understand. When I say camp, I mean like Adam West's Batman, or Batman and Robin. Now, I'm not comparing Superman to those projects, it's not as drastic and obvious as those, but it very much does feel like it's there under the surface. Remember, James Gunn's favorite Batman is George Clooney. I think that says a lot about how he views superheroes overall.
Why are you the way that you are?
As far as the inclusion of all of these new characters, all the villains, all these new heroes like Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Hawkgirl, I think it's going to take some genius level writing and directing to not make this movie feel overstuffed and bloated. That just seems like a lot of character ground to cover in a very short amount of time. And again, I'm not 100% sold on the costumes or designs of these characters. It does not look like something that was created for a big budget Hollywood production. I still like the new score or the new reworked score, but again, it doesn't help with this movie forming its own identity. In the end, this trailer presents the film that I pretty much thought we were getting anyway. To me, it feels like a Superman movie trying to emulate other Superman movies of the past with a campy James Gunn twist, which is not appealing to me in the slightest, especially when we find ourselves knee-deep in comic book movie and superhero fatigue. To me, this movie needs to be something special. It cannot be just another Superman movie. It needs to be more if it's going to convince people that another DC reboot was justified. And from a filmmaking perspective, from a presentation perspective, there is nothing about James Gunn's Superman that makes me feel like this movie is capable of doing that.
Y'all be cool. Right on.